Developments tonight in the case of the man who inspired the Hollywood film Hotel Rwanda. Tonight, Paul Rusesabagina's family accuses Rwanda's government of kidnapping the 66-year-old on made-up charges. Rusesabagina, an outspoken critic of Rwanda's government, is now being held in Rwanda's capital. He had traveled to Dubai, where he was arrested on terror charges. Rwanda's president holds close ties with the United Arab Emirates and has been accused of hunting down critics overseas. In 1996, Rusesabagina fled Rwanda and sought political asylum in Belgium. In 2016, he announced a political campaign against Rwanda's government, which he labeled a dictatorship. The residential school system is a dark chapter in Canadian history. Tens of thousands of Indigenous, Métis and Inuit children were forced to attend the government-run institutions. Nearly 3,000 children are known to have died while at the schools. It's likely many other deaths were not documented. The abuse many experienced has affected generations of families. Today, the federal government recognized the system as a defining event that's not to be forgotten. And as Abigail Bimman reports, 2 former schools will now be National Historic Sites.
That's where I slept.
When he goes inside the former Portage La Prairie, Manitoba residential school now, Ernie Daniels smells chlorine.
5, 6 years old. I was dragged up the stairs that way and thrown into a bathtub full of chlorine.
He grew up to become chief, then successfully fought to reclaim the building and surrounding land. Daniels calls the National Historic Site designation vindication.
We had a long road, winding road to this day.
Former schools in Portage La Prairie and Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia are now National Historic Sites, and the entire residential school system is being declared historically significant.
As we recall the phrase, to kill the Indian within the child.
For Canada to move forward in an inclusive way, and particularly with Indigenous peoples on a path to reconciliation, it's important that we recognize our history, that we learn from our history, both good and bad.
Learn more about what it is that's happened. Learn more about why we use terms like cultural genocide when we're talking about this. Sit with that concept for a bit. Be uncomfortable.
Those working on reconciliation say the announcement is just the beginning, and it's not just about more designations. The government has been criticized for being slow to act on the 94 calls to action the Truth and Reconciliation Commission made in 2015. Commemoration is part of that.
There are many calls to action that have yet to be implemented. We still have to find all of the kids that remain in unmarked burial sites across the country.
In Portage, Lorraine Daniels has been working on opening a national museum inside the old school, slowed by COVID-19 and a lack of funding.
It is going to be a place where they're hurt because of the residential school era and will now be a place of healing.
She says survivors are often asked to forgive, but all Canadians should never forget this part of history. Abigail Bimman, Global News, Ottawa.